Again, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. First, if you're joining us and need Spanish translation, as I mentioned, I've put up a slide that should take you to the translation software. This is a new software package. We are using both live and virtually. So, for instance, in Winston-Salem, those who were speaking Spanish or needed Spanish translation would simply scan the code for different training sessions, and they would be able to see and hear live translation using new AI technology. So as we always talk about, we're always looking to improve the services that we offer. So this is yet another way we're trying to both save costs for you all, as well as use the technology that exists today. So as with everything, there are bugs that are being worked out, and the technology continues to improve. So as that continues to improve, the software we're sure will continue to get better. But overall, it seemed to be a success with our Spanish-speaking clients and attendees. So as we always do, we want to follow each conference with a quick recap of important items from the most recent conference. And also, as a note, I am going to speak or try and speak a little bit slower and take pauses so that AI software can keep up with the translation. So bear with me on that one as well. The 132nd meeting of the CALEA Commission took place in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, from July 24th to the 27th. And first and foremost, I would like to thank the Winston-Salem Police Department, who hosted an amazing conference. As well, we had many of the North Carolina Law Enforcement Accreditation Network's members volunteered to support the police department during the event. We can't thank you all enough. We can't really put on these conferences without you all. We had amazing events, and we really truly thank you for all that you did. I want to kick off by recognizing one of our fastest growing programs in the CALEA Accreditation which is the CALEA Accreditation Manager Certification Award. So not one of our accreditation programs, but a very critical program we started to really recognize the accreditation managers, most of you all who are on the call, for the absolutely outstanding work that you do. You guys are the backbone of this organization. You guys are the ones that are out there in the trenches every day, doing the work and working with your organization to ensure that you are living up to the highest standards and meeting that gold standard that we are with CALEA accreditation. So I'm going to just briefly go through and recognize the folks who have achieved and who were awarded at the most recent conference. Emily Sarvis with Whiteville Police Department in Whiteville, North Carolina. Mary Brian Wolak, North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Alcohol Law Enforcement Division, Garner, North Carolina. Miriam Margarita Palamo Salazar, the University of Security Sciences of the state of Nuevo León, Santa Catarina, Nuevo León. Michelle Parton, North Carolina State Highway Patrol, Raleigh, North Carolina. Christopher Brannon from College Station Police Department, College Station, Texas. Nikki McKinnon with Roswell Police Department, Roswell, Georgia. Cassie Johnson from Scottsdale Police Department, Scottsdale, Arizona. Daniel Pignotti, Westerville Division of Police, Westerville, Ohio. Dwayne Rogers, Louisiana State University Police Department, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I want to, again, formally congratulate each one of you. We did have them all come up at the beginning of the opening session and recognize them for their outstanding service and for their certification. So thank you again to you all. If you all are interested in becoming certified, please visit our website, and they'll give you all the information, the certification criteria, and all the information as to how to join that program. Next, I'd like to recognize two Egon Bittner Award recipients. The Egon Bittner Award is presented to chief executive officers who have commanded a CALEA-accredited agency for 15 or more continuous years. It was created to recognize these leaders for their significant contributions to the public safety profession and to CALEA. Professor Egon Bittner greatly contributed to CALEA's early development in 1979 through 80, and was a CALEA commissioner from 1981 during the critical development stage of the organization through 1988. Dr. Bittner brought wisdom and expertise to CALEA's deliberations. He was professor of sociology at Brandeis University in Massachusetts with a national standing on law enforcement issues. He retired from Brandeis in 1991 and then moved his wife Jean to the California Bay Area. He died there on May 7th, 2011. Our first Egon Bittner Award recipient is Kevin Rambosk, who's the sheriff of Collier County in Naples, Florida. Our second award recipient is Richard Wiles, who's the sheriff of El Paso County in El Paso, Texas. So congratulations to you both, and thank you for your continued support of CALEA and the accreditation process. So before I turn this over to Dan Shaw to go over the very important items and actions of the Standards Review and Interpretation Committee, I did want to give you update you on a few things. Our next conference is Jacksonville, Florida, November 13th through the 16th, 2024. We hope to open up registration for that in the next couple weeks, so please be on the lookout for that. Standards for client comment are being finalized today, and we should hopefully have them up no later than the beginning of next week. So that, again, if you go through our website, there'll be both a constant contact email that will go out, a broadcast email that will go out that'll give you a link to that area of our website so that you can make comments on proposed standards that SRIC has made available to clients. And on that note, around our blasts going out, those types of emails that go out to let you all know that standards have been released, or notices about upcoming conferences, or notices about various things that happen within our organization, are going to go out using a blast service called Constant Contact. I am going to post an article later today that allows you to resubscribe or subscribe to make sure and ensure that you're receiving all of those messages. These types of messages are separate from any messages that are related to contracts or SIMRs and reports and things like that. This is strictly informational or promotional type messages that come out from us. So please reach out to your regional program manager for that link so you can resubscribe, or take a look at the front page of our website later today, and I'll have that article reposted so you can make sure that you're receiving everything that you should be receiving as far as those types of emails are concerned. Our Training Academy standards is moving to a new version, to a new standards manual, to 3.0. That is going to happen here probably around October 1st. So we're going to have several communications that will be happening prior to the release of that Training Academy manual. So please look out for information, probably webinars and articles that we will release and information about, so that you can understand exactly what's going to happen as far as the transition policy. All of those types of things will be covered both in article form and in webinar form. So stand by for those, but again, that should go live around October 1st. The approved standards that came out of our most recent conference that were already posted for client comment and have gone back to SRIC, we absolutely take into account every comment that comes in. We look at those comments as a staff, and then we take them back to the commission. The commission then looks at that and makes any additional changes that they need to make before posting. Those have been posted. So there were a few changes, or a few standards that were posted. So those are now available in Power DMS. I already mentioned the subscribe to CALEA news. So again, look for that article later today. And then also look for the article and the email related to the standards for client comment as well. At this time, I do want to turn it over to Dan Shaw, who is going to go over the standards related commission actions. Dan, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Thanks, Travis. I appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar today. It's my pleasure to kind of highlight the standards related actions that the Commission took during the July 2024 meeting. I'm going to break this up in this way. I'll go over the adopted changes first by program, and then I will highlight the items that, as Travis just mentioned, are going to be posted for client comment later on this week, and then the Commission will review those later for any possible adoptions later on. So those will be proposed changes. So first, let's go over adopted changes. In the law enforcement program, we have one standards change that was adopted. This was previously posted for client comment, but this is standard 46.3.2 related to hazardous materials awareness training. This item came to us through a client comment to make appropriate changes to first responder training related to hazardous materials. So the Standards Review and Interpretation Committee instructed staff to research this topic, and eventually they did then come back with this new standards change. So the standard now reads, at a minimum, the agency provides initial hazardous materials awareness level training to all first responder personnel and defines in-service training requirements. There are two additional definitions that were added to the manual. First is for first responders. What does a first responder mean in our manual? And it means any firefighter, law enforcement officer, paramedic, emergency medical technician, telecommunicator, or other individual, whether an employee or not, that is responding to hazardous and public safety incidents. There's also a definition that was copied from the communications manual regarding hazardous materials. Some items that the Commission can approve in the manuals does not need to be posted for public comment, and that would be any change to commentary language or any definitions. The Commission may elect just to adopt those without prior client feedback. And one of those issues was this definition for administrative review. This will apply to all programs, so you'll see this several more times today. But the new definition for administrative review is a documented review of an incident or occurrence, a series of incidents or occurrences, or program prepared by a member or entity designated by the CEO for review by the CEO and or her designee. The review should indicate whether policy, training, equipment, or disciplinary issues should be addressed. So the Commission felt that this new definition better addressed its intent with what an administrative review actually is. And so it makes it so that agencies could hire a consulting firm or enter an agreement with a university to do an administrative review of some type of process or an incident within their agency for later review by the CEO. So it opens this up quite a bit, but also designates that this review is for your agency CEO. Again, this is a commentary change that was made based on future changes that may happen. You'll see those in a minute, but one commentary change in law enforcement was made to 82.1.1, which is privacy and security within the records section of their records chapter of the manual. And it just includes the verbiage that access to your agency files includes circumstances where personnel are permitted to view records, including photographs and audio video recordings. And I'll go into more of that as the reasoning when we get to those standard changes or proposed standard changes later on. The next is a slight commentary change to 84.1.1, which is the evidence handling and security chapter. So this is under property evidence and property control system. It just simply adds guidance that the procedure should include guidance for accessing, reviewing, and processing or removing the property for further investigation. So it gives more definitions of what this directive really should encompass. So next are adopted changes for the public safety communications program. And this one is just the definition for administrative review that I just discussed. We are going to hold off on posting this to a new version of the manual until after the next conference, since it is only this one definition that was approved for communications. So rather than adopt a new version just for this definition, we will wait. But this will then become applicable probably after the November conference. Next, standards for the Campus Security Agencies program. This is going to be a repeat of the previous law enforcement discussion. Standard 24.3.4 related to hazardous materials awareness training. The exact same change that was made to the law enforcement program has now been applied to campus security, again outlining who a first responder is and defining what hazardous materials are. Again, another repeat. This is the administrative review, so this one will be effective as soon as that change is made. Same as with the law enforcement program, slight modification to commentary for campus security 32.1.1, privacy and security of central records. Again, to expand or further explain what your directive should encompass with regards to release and review of records, and to include photographs and audio-visual video recordings. Again, another repeat. This is Campus Security 34.1.1, Evidence Property Control System. Again, outlining accessing, reviewing, and processing of property within your control. Next, adopted changes for the Public Safety Training Academy program. As Travis mentioned earlier, the commission did approve the 3rd edition of the manual. And if any of you have been around the CALEA Nation for a while, you know that changes and additions cause quite a bit of background work for both you and for CALEA staff. And so one of the things that happens is the commission adopts what's called a transition policy, which allows agencies time to transition from the 2nd edition manual into the 3rd edition manual based on where you are at within the accreditation process. So the transition policy is currently written, states this: actively enrolled agencies in self-assessment, meaning you have not attained accredited status yet. You can stay within the 2nd edition manual until such time as you are awarded accreditation. However, there will be no initial accreditation awards issued under the 2nd edition after October 1st, 2026. So to shorten that up, you can stay in the 2nd edition manual, but you have to transition to the 3rd edition by October 1st, 2026 in order to become awarded. Next, effective October 1st, 2024. Oh, you want to go back there? Thank you. Effective 2024, actively enrolled agencies in reaccreditation. So you have already attained accredited status. You may stay within the 2nd edition manual until the close of your next accreditation award cycle. But there will be no awards granted in the 2nd edition after October 1st, 2028. So in other words, you will have 4 full years within the second edition manual if you so choose. But after that 4th year, you have to adopt the 3rd edition manual. Next, any agency that enrolls after October 1st, 2024 must do so under the 3rd edition. So after October 1st, 2024, agencies don't have a choice that are newly enrolled. They have to adopt the 3rd edition. There will be a standards change matrix that is developed and provided to all of you when this is rolled out in Power DMS. They are doing some background work for us right now to make that transition easier for you within your assessment files. And so once they get all that work done, we will publicize that further, as Travis also mentioned.
Hey, Dan, can I jump in real quick on that one?
You may.
I know this kind of sounds complicated on this slide, but again, we're going to put out multiple communications regarding this process. Where also your regional program managers will be available to answer any questions. We're also going to do a webinar in partnership with Power DMS where we will talk, CALEA staff will talk about the actual standards and the manual and all things content related, but Power DMS being the experts on Power DMS will talk about the technical aspects of making that transition as well. So we hope to have everything covered for you, and if there are any questions, as always, don't hesitate to reach out to your regional program manager. So stay tuned on that one. We're going to have a lot more information for you.
All right, next, let's talk about changes that are going to be posted shortly for client comment. And as Travis mentioned, please take a look at these because the commission does take your comments seriously. They look at every single one of them. I can attest to that since I am the one that collates all the comments that come in and provide them to the commission. I know that they read them all and they receive them. So let's go over this by program, and again you will see some repeats, so I'll skip over the repeats. But first, let's talk about standards for law enforcement agencies. The commission has asked staff to research in-car and or body worn audio video standard, and so to make sure that we remain contemporary with the standard. There's a lot of changes coming with regards to in-car and body worn cameras. So we want to make sure that we remain contemporary and we're providing the best guidance to all of you. So staff researched this, and we are proposing, the proposal is to eliminate bullet G from this standard and move it to a new standard. So you'll see it back again, but the requirement for a documented review will be moved to a different standard. We struck some commentary language that no longer was applicable. But again, you'll see this topic several times in the second paragraph of the commentary. Organizational consistency in the security of data and the application of destruction procedures is important. And so what these changes are really focused on is security of your in-car and body-worn camera data. And so you'll see a lot of that transpire here in the next couple of slides, I believe. And on the bottom, another added statement in the commentary: the use of camera captured data continues to proliferate and pose challenges for law enforcement and the public regarding privacy, access, retention, and release of data, while administrative or criminal investigations still may be underway. That'll make more sense with the next slide. A new standard that has been proposed is 41.3.10, which is in-car and or body-worn audio video review. So remember that one deleted standard comes over to this standard, but the standard reads: if the agency employs in-car and or body-worn cameras, a written directive governs the review of captured data to include employee review of the completion, employee review for the completion of reports, employee review prior to making any statements in an administrative and criminal investigation, employee review of data captured by another employee's camera, investigative review, or I should say investigators review during an organizational integrity, administrative, or criminal investigation. Documented supervisory review, including frequency and quantity, and an annual administrative review of the in-car and/or body-worn camera program reviewed by the CEO. The commission's direction at this point is truly to advise agencies, or to make sure the agencies are advising their employees when they can review video and when others in the organization will be reviewing their video data that has been captured. So if you have some subject matter experts within this type of field, please take a look at the standard or the last two standards and provide input for us. We truly would appreciate it. Next, again, this was this standard change proposal was provided by an agency, a client agency. Initially, the request was to create a new standard related to agency motor vehicle crashes. So any motor vehicle crash or collision involving an agency vehicle. The commission directed staff to broaden the topic to not just include motor vehicle crashes, but really to look at the overall issue of liability and risk management. So with that, staff's proposal to the commission, which has now been approved, was to change this standard for all four programs, and then the change would apply to all four programs, but is broadening the topic to liability and a risk management program. So it pulls in segments from other standards and adds in the issues that were suggested by that client agency for the original proposal. So in this example, or this standard, a written directive establishes the agency's liability and risk management program to include procedures for submission of a written report whenever an employee is involved in a work-related incident resulting or alleged to have resulted in property damage, injury, or death. Notification of the agency's CEO and other appropriate personnel of any work-related incident resulting or alleged to have resulted in serious injury or death. Notification of the CEO or designee of incidents where there may be question as to the agency's liability or those which may result in heightened community interest. An administrative review of each submitted employee work-related incident report. An annual analysis of all work-related incidents to be reviewed by the agency CEO, which must at a minimum, and I won't read all that, but basically all the typical data points involved in an analysis would be covered. Bullet F, retention schedule. When I head back, bullet F, retention schedule for all work-related incident reports and documents. And then lastly, bullet G, a listing of initial risk reduction training to be provided to employees and defines any in-service training requirements. So there's initial training, and then your agency is allowed to determine what future in-service training or repeat refresher training is required. Next. Because of that change, and if approved by the commission in November or later on, this change would then be proposed as well to standard 4.2.1 reporting uses of force, specifically bullet B. Bullet B would be changed to apply only to force that results in or has alleged to result in injury or death of another person. This would eliminate a lot of the confusion that is currently in the field when a non-force related incident occurs with either sworn or non-sworn personnel that has to be reported based on a use of force standard, which sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense if it's a motor vehicle crash or some type of other action that was taken that was not use of force related. So this would clean that up a little bit, and it would all then flow underneath that previous standard for risk and liability. Okay, this is another standards change. It's really coming from the field, but it's really from our assessment staff, from the compliance service members and the assessors. They have been seeing some problems with this topic. So the proposal is to change this standard for all 4 programs related to notification of allegations and rights. So when an employee becomes the subject of an internal affairs investigation or organizational integrity investigation, this standard would then apply. A written directive describes the process for notifying employees of the allegations and their rights and responsibilities when they are subject of an administrative investigation. So it kind of cleans up the language a little bit, and it would apply to all 4 programs. So then it could be used in the crosswalk methodology later on as well, if approved. Next, proposals for public safety communications agencies. So during the public or the client comment portion of the law enforcement and campus security hazardous materials standard, we received some comments from the communications personnel or communications clients stating that their program should really have a hazardous materials awareness training standard as well. And so the commission agreed. And so the same standard that applied to both law enforcement and campus security has been proposed then for communications with some minor tweaks to language, but to commentary language. But the same standard would apply, that at a minimum, the agency provides initial hazardous materials awareness training to all telecommunicators and defines in-service training requirements. This is a repeat of that liability and risk management program standard, but this time for communications. And as you see, the same language has been pulled over and some has been removed from the commentary. Communications has actually 3 separate standards related to this topic of liability and risk management. And so as you'll see next, we have some that we're going to delete. We're going to merge all of them into one standard, or that's the proposal, is to merge them all into one standard and clean it up a little bit. And here are the 2 deleted. As you'll see, the liability report reviewed and a liability report analysis. So those have been merged into that one single standard. Next, this is a client suggested change to a standard for communication 6.2.1, immediate access to communication center resources. Because we're striking one word in bullet C, residential, we have to keep with the times, and many people no longer have residential hardwired phones anymore. People are using IP phones and cell phones more regularly. So the suggestion was to strike residential and then to make that change in the commentary to call that personal telephone numbers rather than residential phone numbers. Again, another client suggested change. This is really to mirror other programs. For some reason, this wasn't modified when some of the other programs were modified, but this is for communications 2.6.5, survey of citizen attitudes. A documented survey of citizen attitudes and opinions is conducted at a minimum of every 2 years instead of 3. And that's to more to better fit the new 4-year process as well. So it kind of fits with the 4-year process. Okay, repeat of previous. This is the communications version of notification of allegations and rights. As you'll see, it's the same topic, just change the words maybe a little bit, but it means really the same thing. Next, proposals for Public Safety Training Academy program. This is the liability and risk management standard. As you see, that's some of the language has been modified from the Training Academy standard. As a matter of fact, really this standard was used as the base, the format, if you will, for this new standard. And so that's why a lot of it hasn't changed. For the most part, we just kind of shifted some words around again. Next, Training Academy 2.3.3. It's the same change for notification of allegations and rights, just an addition of a few words. Again, this was used as the format, the base for the other programs. And lastly, proposals for campus security agencies. This is the campus security agencies standard for in-car and or body-worn audio video. And as you see, the same changes that were made in law enforcement are being proposed for campus security. So removing of the supervisory review, bullet G, and the same commentary changes as well. Campus Security 21.3.8, responsibility for security cameras. This is more broad than in-car and body-worn cameras. Just a couple changes to make it applicable to procedures for accessing, reviewing, and releasing recordings. Again, that same theme that is going through these standards for body-worn and in-car cameras. And next is the additional standard, same as law enforcement, just different numbers basically. Campus Security 21.3.10, in-car and or body-worn audio video reviews. So the same bullets would apply for that was presented in the law enforcement program. So what procedures do you have to review that video data? Next is a repeat. As I mentioned before, liability and risk management program applies to all 4 programs. So this is the change in campus security. If that liability standard does become approved or adopted by the commission, then this change would also be proposed. Again, striking takes an action in and makes it applies force. It results in injury or death of another person. So hopefully clears that confusion up. And I believe this is the last one, but Campus Security 25.2.5, again, notification of allegations and rights, same exact language from the other 4 programs. So we'll be able to use the crosswalk method for any of these programs that's applicable for. And with that, Travis, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks very much, Dan. I appreciate all the work that you and SRIC do to roll all of that out. I wanted to before we wrap up, I wanted to address a couple things. On this call, we typically do not do a Q&A, and there's a very specific reason for that. Because the number of folks that are on the call and because some of this stuff can get really specific to various agencies, we really would like for you all to reach out to your regional program manager and discuss any questions you have specific to the standards that have already been adopted. And then if you have any clarification questions prior to commenting on those that are being proposed for comment, you can also reach out to your regional program manager, as with anything else for that matter. And certainly you can always reach out to me, to our executive director. He's always willing to speak with you as well. So all of those types of things, please just reach out directly to your regional program manager. They're the experts in your region, and they can get you the information you might need. I will put out, I'll attach all of these documents, including the Spanish version, to this meeting, whether it's through the follow-up email or attach it in the article. I'm going to post this on our website under our webinars section. So if you go up to the top right corner where the hamburger is of our website, so one of the areas that we've added up here, if this is called the hamburger, if we ever mention it, the regional program managers mentioned the hamburger. But this is the easiest way to go in and look for things on our website. Right under education is the webinars. This is where all of those post-conference webinars are located. So I will add that after this. I'll also put in an attachment for both of the documents that will be there. But one of the other things I really wanted to point out for you is on our homepage, down a little bit, this is our news area in the news section. This is where I'm going to post as soon as this webinar is done. I'm going to repost the article where you can go and subscribe to all of our communications that go out in a blast format. There's another place where you can do that within our website as well, but really this is going to be the easiest. You just click the link and it basically says to our system, hey, yes, they want to be receiving the information. That just has a better chance of getting through agency firewalls. That's unfortunately usually the case, is that the agency has set up firewall blocks to block things like mass distribution things. However, we're on a dedicated server that's only for CALEA for this type of information. Also, no later than Monday, there'll be an article here that'll take you to the client comments section. And I'm just going to show you really quickly. Ignore all of this. This is kind of the back end piece of our website. But once the article goes live, you'll see this. You can simply click right here. That's going to take you to a page where these are all of those standards that Dan has just gone through under law enforcement, communications. And what we do is, this is something we created, I think about 3 conferences ago at this point. We want to make it easier for you all to provide comments. So simply just go into each one, you click on that standard. It's going to give you the standard with the proposed changes. And then you just simply fill out the form. Provide program. For the standard number, you just simply copy and paste from up here down here, and then add your comments. Once you receive the email, you'll get an email that says, hey, yes, or I'm sorry, you'll get a screen that says, yes, it's received. Thank you so much. You can either hit your back button and go back to this list and then hit the next standard and move forward, or there's a link within that page as well that'll take you back to this page. So I did want to show you all that. Please look at those. Please go through each of them and provide feedback. We absolutely do take that into consideration and provide it to the commission for guidance. So I think that's it. Again, this is being recorded. I will post it along with the documentation. We look forward to seeing all of you in November. We hope to see all of you in November in Jacksonville. That always proves to be a really, really good conference, not only because of the training, but there happens to be some very fun events almost every single night of that. So a great host is down in Jacksonville. So we thank them for that. Again, reach out to your regional program managers. Reach out to me if you have any questions at all. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for all the work that you do every single day for your agencies and for your communities, and continue to stay safe. Thank you all. Have a great day.